are Geekcentric, and you can be too. Love ya. Get home safe, guys. Peace. Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast, and welcome to our special Behind the Geeks episode for Monarch, Legacy of Monsters. My name is Nate, and if you're joining us for the first time, we are Geekcentric, a podcast focusing on the world of movies, TV shows, video games, and all things Geekcentric. Joining me for today's monster-filled episode, we've got the Japan-loving Justin the Jet Jaguar Lawrence.
Jet Jaguar, there's that name again. There's that name again.
We talked about him on the spoiler free, and yeah, man, I was kind of looking into more. It's interesting to see all the different like legacy kaiju. There's some really interesting like weird ones. Like I'm gonna send you a picture of one right now. His name is Goramon. He just looks insane. If you're listening to this and you get a chance to just do a quick Google search for Goramon kaiju, apparently they repurposed the Pigman or Pigmon costume for this one.
That is terrifying. That is a terrifying kaiju. And if that's a kaiju that like is destroying cities, that is horrifying.
Right.
That is, I'm not digging this one. This one, the design seems a little off.
You know, we talked in our spoiler free about maybe like our favorite, but I want to try a different question before we get into some of these interviews, which is, if you could pick a kaiju to be friends with, because I think that's the big thing with this series and with any of these monster movies is we're never just taking the time to talk to these monsters, to communicate. You know what I mean? And I think that the world would be a much better place. So if you could be a friend with any one of these kaiju, which one would you be a friend with?
Well, I guess this might be a spoiler for our review, which comes out tomorrow.
Okay.
But I will probably say Godzilla, because I think Godzilla, I would love to be friends with Godzilla. He's, as we go through these interviews, even those who worked on it revere Godzilla as a pop culture icon, and it's so true. I'd want to be friends with him. And most of the time I just feel like he's being misunderstood.
That's the problem,
and he's just no one's listening to him. They just think he's some big angry kaiju titan monster, but he's special. He's special.
Yeah.
You just gotta get into the mind of Godzilla, and I think you could do it. So I don't know how I would do it. Maybe it's some sort of ritualistic dance. Maybe I have to like make myself seem like I'm a Godzilla style monster as I flail my hands.
Would you ride on his back? Something like that?
Dude, if there was any monster or animal that I would wish to ride on the back of, it'd be Godzilla. For sure.
Yeah, not Goramon, unfortunately.
No, Goramon is terrifying. I think
I think Goramon, again, look up Goramon if you get a chance, because I think he's the kind of guy for myself. If I was to have a friend, that would be the friend I'd want.
The awkward one?
He's awkward. He looks so awful, but he knows it. He rocks it. You know what I mean? I think he's confident.
He's comfortable
in his
ugliness.
Kaiju
ugliness. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think he would be a great person to kind of be like, he's the guy that you have as your wingman to make you look better. No offense to Goramon.
I don't know if that sells you too well either, bro.
Come on. Listen, look up Goramon and we have an interesting relationship. But someone who you got to, I guess, technically have a relationship with, to connect with, to talk with, are some of the folks behind this series. And Justin, why don't you let the lovely people listening, as they're looking up pictures of Goramon on the internet, know who you had the chance to chat with?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks to our friends at AppleTV Plus, I had the opportunity to chat with the creative team behind Monarch, Legacy of Monsters. That included Sean Konrad, the visual effects supervisor, Matt Shakman, executive producer and director of episodes 1 and 2, who you might also know that name from shows like WandaVision, upcoming Fantastic Four, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
He did do some episodes
Game of Thrones.
He's
done a lot of stuff. And showrunner Chris Black, who's also executive producer, and Matt Fraction, a name for anyone who's familiar with comics, would recognize, because
Yes.
he is the writer of the Hawkeye series that was adapted for the live action series. Yeah, this was great. I really appreciate the opportunity, and again, a huge thanks to the team at Apple TV Plus for setting this up.
Absolutely.
It's been a really interesting period. The SAG strike is over now.
Hmm.
And who knows, we may get more actors, but I really have enjoyed my time interviewing all of these creative people that are behind the scenes. We are geeks, we like to geek out, and I feel like in a lot of ways, uh the people that get to work on these shows and get to work on these movies behind the scenes are geeks, and want to geek out with us as well. So
Absolutely.
it's
Yeah.
it's it's been it's been a really good time, and definitely I enjoyed my time with all of these folks, because it really just it highlights exactly what Geekcentric's all about in a lot of ways.
All right. Well, with that said, please enjoy our interviews with visual effects supervisor Sean Konrad, executive producer and director Matt Shakman, executive producer Matt Fraction, and showrunner Chris Black.
Awesome. Sean, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for making the time to join us on the Geekcentric podcast to talk about the visual effects from this show, which are outstanding. Some very top tier graphics, that visual effects that match the movie experience in a lot of ways. And kind of speaking about those movies, the stories that's featured in this series, the events revolve around past events that have already happened to a certain degree. And I wanted to know, with your team, how did you guys build scenes that would add new perspective to
Mm.
moments that we had already seen?
So, one of the really important things is we use the same assets for Godzilla and the bridge and the cars that are on the bridge that we had in, Godzilla 2014.
Mhm.
Uh, but then also, for the Skull Island of it all, like we went and we shot in Hawaii, where we would get the same landscape, the same kind of terrain, and we knew like we wanted to do something new and different kind of environment that we'd seen, but we needed connective tissue to make it feel like it was part of that universe. So Chris's initial thing in the script was he wanted it to go off that bamboo spider, which we only see like through the leaves of the trees in the feature, and then maybe like bring it out into the open so the audience can get a full look at it for the first time. So that becomes like a piece of connective tissue that then lets you take you out to a giant volcanic rock peninsula
Mhm.
where you see a crab monster come out of the ground. And we sort of looked at the terrain while we were shooting, and we were standing on this rock, and we're like, well, this rock is fantastic, like why, like this could be a really great thing. And that sort of like design philosophy undergirds everything in the Legendary universe anyway, like
Mhm.
looking at the natural world, the crazy, weird, scary things about it, and bringing those to light. That's how we kind of made it fit in, is you always start from something familiar and then extrapolate out.
Yeah, and kind of work backwards in a way to kind of create something new. And again, I think that the first episode is a banger right off the bat with the massive monster battle.
Yeah.
But the series feels very human centric. Monsters are obviously, and Titans are a part. And outside of just making monsters, how else does the visual effects implement itself? Because there seems to be a good sense of practical as well.
Yeah, I mean, like, the production design and locations work is like really top notch, and that gave us an excellent base to work from. And some of that's like very subtle in finding the right locations. When we go to Tokyo and we go
Mhm.
under something iconic like the Rainbow Bridge, and then we put a missile battery on top of it and bits of graffiti that sort of give a sense of this world building. Or you go to a plutonium plant interior, and then you're doing more traditional 2D environment set extensions where you have a build, and the art department will give you something for the actors to touch, and then figure out how to like get stunt work going, rig up
Mhm.
rigs so it's safe. Like they descend 50 feet down, we didn't want to put them 50 feet up, and that wouldn't necessarily be safe. So you
Right.
put them like 15 feet above the ground with a pad that'll do that in case anything, God forbid, happens. And then you break that up into multiple sets and figure out how you do all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's great. So it seems like, again, like I guess it goes without saying, the process of filmmaking is so collaborative. So to hear that, VFX has to work with stunt and work with, onset elements, it makes a lot of sense to help, keep things moving. Sean, thank you so much for taking some time to share more insight about
Yeah.
the VFX on this series. Really
Yeah.
enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you so much, and a big shout out to all the visual effects teams across the planet who figured this out. We had over 1,000 people across the world working on this thing, so
Takes a team, man.
takes an army.
Have a good one. Hey, Matt, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for making the time to join us on the Geekcentric podcast to talk about this show. I have been enjoying my time with it. It is definitely a mystery box in itself to unravel, which I've been enjoying. I just kind of want to rewind the clock here for a sec and just get a little more perspective as to what made you want to jump in on and be a part of this show and direct the first 2 episodes and be an executive producer as well.
Exactly what you just said. It's this multi-generational family drama and this multi-generational puzzle as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I love Godzilla and I love MonsterVerse movies. But what was so surprising was how emotionally invested I got in this family story
Mm-hmm.
and how clever it was to be able to tell these intersecting stories through different timelines. I think it was essential also because it's a television show. You can do things in a movie in 2 hours and you can spend a lot of time up in the stratosphere with the monsters battling each other. But if for television, you want to be rooting for these characters and tuning in and week out to see how they're doing and caring about them. And I think that the construct of the show was built around the human element intentionally for that reason.
Yeah, that's what I've said too in our discussion about it. It's very human centric. The monsters are very much they're very important, but it's more about the human story and the effects of that these events may have on humans and so on. So I really enjoyed that perspective. As the director of the first 2 episodes, was there anything you wanted to establish from a visual tone or even just atmospherically that would hopefully, again, we have a variety of different directors that would potentially carry on some of those elements through their episodes as well?
What you said, human centric, was a big part of it. I really wanted to tell the story of these monsters and the world changing as a result of these monsters from the point of view of our characters, which meant subjective filmmaking, which meant being there on the ground with them on the Golden Gate Bridge instead of being up there with Godzilla as he's being hit with missiles and being shot with machine gun fire. It's being with John Goodman at the beginning, running through that bamboo forest and not really seeing all too well what's chasing him until he gets out of the forest. That's so important to the visual language of the show, which is human point of view, subjective filmmaking. But it's also the puzzle you were saying, it fits into existing parts of the MonsterVerse. We are on the same bridge that Godzilla 2014, Gareth Edwards movie, has a giant sequence in. We are in the same parts of Skull Island that John Goodman has been in a movie called Kong Skull Island. So I wanted to honor the continuity and the style and the choreography that those filmmakers had in their films to make sure that it felt like these were scenes that just maybe got cut out of the movie. You didn't get a chance to see. So it all linked together and helped, like it felt like it was part of a shared universe.
Yeah, it helps to add like a thread to the MonsterVerse movies, and that's what I really enjoy is that this situates itself in a really interesting place to help give more detail to Monarch as a whole. Now, you're no stranger to working on big IP projects. Your work on WandaVision has been celebrated as some of the best in television, and your upcoming work on Fantastic Four is highly anticipated. And there's just so much talk. You're used to all the chatter, Mephisto, and this person's going to be this person, and all this casting stuff. How do you block out all that noise and keep focused on the task at hand and telling the great stories that you love to tell?
Well, I don't block it out. I actually kind of celebrate it because it's
awesome.
Passion and engagement, which I have as a fan, and I understand it completely. I want to know who's going to play the Fantastic Four. Before I was directing it, I was wondering the same thing too, and if I hadn't made WandaVision, I probably would have been tuning in week to week, wondering and making theories. And I hope people engage with Monarch in the same way.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of the things that's so wonderful about television and about the idea of being able to watch something week to week instead of just binging it in a weekend. You have that anticipation, and to be engaged passionately as a fan is something that's such a part of who I am, and that I celebrate it. And gosh, it's so nice that it's there. You
Yeah.
know, you don't want to make something that no one is paying attention to and no one cares about. I mean, that's not where you want to be. You want to be engaged with
Right.
passionate fans.
Absolutely. Now, as my last question, as we wrap here, I just wanted to know, coming back to Monarch, with so much going on in the season, is there something that you hope audiences will take away from it? Because you've talked so lovingly about like the human touch to it. Is there anything specific for yourself that you hope audiences will take away from this first season?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that it's for all audiences. You know, the thing that's amazing about it is I think if you're a diehard MonsterVerse fan, there's the puzzle, you're learning about how it fits into other movies that you love. But, in those other movies, most of the human characters are experts and scientists. They know everything about monsters. Our human characters don't. They're learning along the way. So if you've never seen a monster movie, you've never seen a Godzilla project, like you can come into this show, fall in love with these characters and learn about that world as they learn about it. And I think that is part of the magic trick. Everyone is welcome.
Matt, this has been great. I've enjoyed your perspective. Like you said, you're a fan, you're a geek, if I may be so kind to share that word, you'd use that word. And I really enjoyed the time. And I love that you talk about this so passionately from the human perspective, because that's exactly what connected with me about this show. And yeah, I'm very happy for the opportunity to chat with you and looking forward to seeing Fantastic Four.
Thank you so much.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, Justin.
Hey, Chris. Hey, Matt. How you guys doing?
Hanging in there, man.
Yeah, great. We're good.
Busy day, I can imagine.
Yeah, no, but look, it's like it's better than
working.
Yeah, better than the alternative. The fact that there has been so much enthusiasm and interest in the show is thrilling to us. So,
well, yes, I've been enjoying my time with the show, and I really appreciate you guys taking the time to join us on the Geekcentric podcast. My first question is really for both of you. Maybe we'll start with Chris. What was it that drew you to wanting to play in the MonsterVerse world?
Well, it seemed like an impossible dream. I mean, it wasn't. I've been a fan my whole life. Matt and I have talked about this before. If you asked me what the first Godzilla movie or Toho Kaiju movie that I saw, I couldn't tell you because it's like it just feels like it has always been a part of my pop cultural consciousness. I watched them when I was a little kid. On my parents' black and white TV on Saturday afternoons. And I've been really fortunate in my career to work in, some franchises that I love. I worked on Star Trek, and to be able to be a part of that in a universe that I was a fan of was an amazing honor. And it never occurred to me, maybe you'll get to write for Godzilla. And just as a working writer in Hollywood, opportunities come along, and I had relationships with the people at Legendary, and they came to me and said, we have this big movie franchise, and I was like, I know, and they were like, we've been working to develop it as a television series. Would you be interested in coming in to help us with it? And I was like, are you kidding me? And then I met Matt. Matt and I teamed up. We really hit it off. We felt we had really complementary sensibilities, and we loved the same things, and we saw the same what the show needed to be. We were really kind of in lockstep on what we felt the show needed to be, which was driven by character and by family. It was just an extraordinary stroke of luck, and now we find ourselves in the middle of all this.
Yeah.
How about for you, Matt?
Gosh, Godzilla is just ambient pop culture radiation, and as a fan, I mean, my only sense of what to write is driven by what I want to read or see. And I wanted to spend time in the MonsterVerse, but also the challenge of writing television. We weren't trying to compete with the films, right? It was about how do you tell a human story in this world, and that was what was intriguing to me. Was I got to spend a lot of time in this world that I've always loved and admired and thought was really cool, and getting a chance to tell this epic, tragic human story against that spectacular backdrop is just catnip. Couldn't resist.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of my favorite parts, is that it's more human centric rather than monster centric. Like the monsters are there, they obviously influence the events, but we see how those events affect the humans, versus the movies that do such a great job at showcasing these monsters, and putting them in the forefront. The show is definitely putting the humans in the forefront, and putting Monarch, which again, like, such an elusive government agency, and now we're adding depth and dimension to that. How do you balance that? Like, how do you balance that human drama with that sort of bigger picture story? Like, I'm sure you guys have watched Always Sunny. I just think of Charlie Day with his board, and he's got all the stuff on a map, trying to figure it out. How do you guys map that out, because this is playing in a sandbox of stories that already exist?
Well, we have lots of boards.
We have a lot of boards, and we have a tremendous room of writers.
Yes.
We've got great producing partners up and down the line, and a great studio to kind of help check it. But I think the answer is that it was about Kate and Kentaro discovering this horrible secret about their father, and learning over the course of the season that the story of their father is also the story of Monarch. And as they learn who Hiroshi was, the audience will learn how Hiroshi became who he was, and that all ties into who and what Monarch was. We didn't want to make a show that required homework. We didn't want it to feel like a Wikipedia article. We wanted to tell this compelling, propulsive human mystery that, as it gets solved, answers these questions and thoughts that super fans have had all along.
Right.
But also remaining, the mystery is key, right? Solving these puzzles always presents 3 more harder puzzles to solve.
Well, and then the balance, asking about the balance, there's not a formula, there's not a mathematical formula. It's really the craft and the art of storytelling,
Yes.
and as you're following this path, at what point, I think the story and the characters kind of tell you, it's like, they run into, they encounter the obstacles, and they, and you find those places, in the story as you're unraveling this mystery with them. We said in the room that it was always, the first season arc for these characters was they're searching for their father, and the monsters keep getting in the way. And in a way, the characters would tell us when it was time for a monster to get in the way.
Yeah. Usually it was right when they were about to get something that they really, really wanted. That was a perfect time to have something horrible happen.
Yes,
so I
absolutely.
remember building the season and talking about episode 5 and realizing, like, oh, this really needs to be Kate's story. It's the halfway point of the season. It's time for Kate's kind of this full picture of her psychology to happen. Like, we're going to let the flashback go dark that episode, and the flashback is Kate's flashback. It's and that was a human decision. It was a storytelling decision. We thought there would be flashbacks every episode. We got to that and we were like, you know what, this one is really Kate's show. This one is about how this young woman came to be the lady we meet in the pilot.
Well, you try to write it the way you would want to watch it, which is like, if you're going, what do I want to see in this episode? If I were watching the show, what haven't I seen yet? What do I want to see? What needs to happen here?
Yes.
What's
surprising? Yeah. And I think what's very surprising is how we get to go back and forth between 2 different periods and see an origin story to the Monarch, and see almost a sort of trauma that affects the events from these monster events, and from Kate's perspective. It's really great that human touch exists throughout this entire series, and I really enjoy that. We're talking about, obviously, monsters, big monsters, and you guys are obviously very well versed in it. Do you have your favorites from the Monsterverse that you like and that you're happy to see in the show?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, it's Godzilla, right? I mean,
I agree.
He's a cinematic icon. He's a pop culture icon. I mean, Godzilla all day long.
He's the OG.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
Yeah, I mean, just to be able, and just even as fans to get to like go to Toho, they've got like this 8-foot Godzilla statue right at the front gate, to see the stages where they made these things, to see all the photos, the behind the scenes photos they have on the wall. So it's just Godzilla is such a blast, pardon the pun, to get to, we'd be writing and write like, exterior Godzilla, and it's like, oh, that's so cool.
Kind of gives you chills.
Yeah. It's amazing to hold this baton in this kind of, pop culture relay race.
Mhm.
And I still get chills like when we look at the episodes, and you've seen some of the episodes that, you write it that it's part of and I'm sure you talk to a lot of writers and producers, writing is in a lot of ways a job. It's
Mhm.
what we get paid to do. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of, physical and mental exertion that can be exhausting and challenging and maddening. And sometimes you get so inside of the work itself that it's hard to take, to really take a step back and appreciate what you're doing. And then there was an opportunity then when the show was finally done to sit back and watch them, and seeing all of the visual effects and hearing. I remember watching episode, you haven't seen it yet, but the finale episode 10,
Mhm.
on the mix stage as they were doing the final sound mix, and hearing it blasting through those big speakers on the stage and hearing that roar. It's like you just go, you're like, I have the best job in the world.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's a reason why they put the roar in all the trailers.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's so signature.
It's echoic. It's just as it's
haunting, and it signifies so much that, as you pointed out, Matt, that Godzilla has a place in pop culture. And what's great is, like, he's sort of a rock star. Like, he's not in every episode. He's sort of like,
he's so easy to work with. You would never know.
yeah,
He
absolutely.
shows up on time. He hits his marks. He knows his lines. It's really he's a dream to work with.
Total pro.
Awesome. Well, you guys were a dream to talk to. Thank you so much for making the time. And I look forward to seeing how this all wraps.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It was
Awesome.
a pleasure.
Have a great one.
Bye.
We are back. Justin, those interviews were almost as big as Godzilla himself, I think, and I love the bit at the end with Chris and Matt discussing how easy it was to work with Godzilla. I'm telling you, man, I think these monsters are friendly folks if you get to know them, and if you're paying them right, and if if your studios are doing right by them. I think maybe they will they'll cooperate.
Yeah, of course, man. Do right by your kaiju. No, but in all seriousness, what I love about these interviews is that they all really connected with the one piece that we talked about, and we'll elaborate on in our review when we post it tomorrow. But it's that human touch. It's that human focus that really does make this different from those monster movies. So these monsters are treated more like rock stars, right? Like they're not as central. They exist. They're important. They're into the world, but they are very much they have the rock star status where
they're going to do what they're going to do.
Exactly. Yeah. You hear about them. You know they exist. They're elusive, but at the end of the day, the focus of this is that human story.
Yeah, and I think that was you're absolutely right. When you listen to our spoiler-free review, there's obviously an emphasis on that. I think that's one of the best aspects
that's the part
of
we
the
loved.
show. It's the part we loved. All right, well, that is it for this special Behind the Geeks episode for Monarch Legacy of Monsters. Again, special thanks to our friends at Apple TV Plus for these opportunities. We're always so humbled when we get to talk to the amazing people that make the things we love. Keep in mind, we have a ton of other episodes covering our recent releases, like our spoiler-free reviews for Next Goal Wins, as well as The Marvels, the Netflix series Blue Eye Samurai, Invincible Season 2, Part 1, Hunger Games, A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and David Fincher's The Killer. We also have some other amazing interviews out now, like our most recent interview before this with executive producer Mary Livanos and composer Laura Karpman from The Marvels, where Justin talked to them about the power of their own collaboration and the work that they did as a team to make that movie a cosmic blast. So be sure to check out those interviews and all of our interviews either here on your podcast service of choice or over on YouTube at youtube.com/geekcentric. Plus, we just wrapped our watch club for Loki Season 2 with our finale episode where we were joined by yet another Matt Rorabeck of
They're everywhere.
Untitled Movie. There's so many Matts.
They're like kaijus.
They are. They're like kaijus, and they're all rock stars in my life.
Yeah, exactly.
But Matt Rorabeck of the Untitled Movie Podcast joined us, where we got deep into our thoughts and theories on what's next for Loki and everyone at the TVA. So Justin, thank you so much for joining me for this monstrous Behind the Geeks episode. And as we say, love ya.
Peace.